Hey gang, Carl White here, broadcasting out of the beautiful Tampa Bay area here on the Scotsman's Guide podcast that we call the Author Showcase. And what we do here on the Author Showcase is we interview authors that's been kind enough to submit articles over at the Scotsman's Guide. And as you may or may not know, there's actually two editions to the Scotsman's Guide. One is the commercial division, and the other is the residential. Recommend that you go subscribe to both. This particular article is coming from the December issue of the residential side, and we're honored to be talking to Rebecca Richardson out of the Charlotte area, and she's an originator for Kind Lending, and she wrote a great article called Viewpoint, the Path of Progress. And again, that's in the December issue of the residential section. So, Rebecca, first of all, great to see you here today, and thanks for carving out some time for us.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, cool. So, why don't you give us like a 30,000-foot view of what this article is about? So, the title is Viewpoint, Path of Progress. What was this about?
It's really about coming up on the 50th anniversary of ECOA and just talking about the protections that allowed, greater access to credit and things like that. The reason that it came up is I had done a video talking about the summer. There was a trend on social media talking about girl money and girl math and things like that. And it still kind of astounds me that it's less than 50 years from when women couldn't be discriminated against, because of their sex, to be able to get access to credit and have some financial autonomy. So I did a video just talking about that, talking about here's a girl money fact for you. And how that then now has manifested into women or single women home buyers are outnumbering single male home buyers. And fairly benign topic, but just kind of an atta girl, like look at what we've done in 50 years. And the comment section went negative, very quickly. And being on social to the level and to the volume that I am, I'm used to comments. Comment sections really don't scare me, but it really did get my attention because I thought, wow, like this what it reminded me of is that the need for diversity in our industry, still the need for diversity in our industry, because people want, when they're making these decisions that are leaving them vulnerable, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. You're talking about your money, you're talking about your home, two very emotional topics, two very high value topics. You want to be sure that the person that you're working with, that you're engaging with, is treating you as a person versus kind of putting you into a box, or maybe smiles to your face, in the meeting, and actually, has kind of the same biases or the same toxicity that I found in my comment section. So I had reached out to Scotsman and said, hey, here's an idea. It's coming up on, the fall will be 49 years since ECOA. Would you maybe want to talk about this? And they said, sure. Why don't you talk about it? And why don't you write about it? So that's kind of how that went. Yeah. And I was like, well, wait, I'm a math girl. I'm not a words girl, but no, I really did appreciate that opportunity just to say, certainly big strides have happened. Again, you look at the single women home buyers, but still it's part of the conversation that as an industry, to hold each other accountable, hold our colleagues accountable for, taking that fiduciary agent responsibility seriously, and making sure that people know that, hey, I might not look like you, have the same background as you, but I care about you and I am here to serve. And so that was really kind of the genesis of that.
All right, cool. Hey, let me back up just a little bit. Explain to the which you described it very well in the article, but in case somebody's listening before they read,
For sure.
what exactly is ECOA?
So this, I'm going to date myself a little bit from when I used to go over, applications in person, because I used to read them upside down. But ECOA was the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, which passed in 1974, and it prevents the discrimination to access on credit on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, marital status, or age. And what that meant was that now women could get their own credit cards, certainly their own mortgages, and just lead to some of that financial autonomy.
It's really hard to believe that there was a time where that wasn't true. right? When you think
Sure.
about it, and not that long ago. I mean, we're talking
Not that
about,
long ago.
yeah, we're talking about, this was, my mother was affected by this, right?
Yeah.
And so interesting. What do you think? What have been some? Has there been any like notable changes, or if so, what were they? That has been in the mortgage industry since ECOA was enacted 50 years ago.
I mean, you know, I'll back up kind of half a step and just say some people that were commenting on the video, and they're totally right. They said, oh, my grandmother, she owned property. So it's not that women couldn't own property or that women couldn't get access to credit. Um, but it was that there were extra hoops, right? And that basically could say, oh, I'm sorry, your husband isn't with you or your father isn't with you, we're just not going to extend it.
Mhm.
And I think as far as the changes from within the mortgage industry beyond just the access, it leads to having greater financial literacy. And all of our communities, I think, can benefit. The more people that understand how money works, how they can, chart their own path, how they can make it work for them versus just reacting to what happens. We say that all the time, right? They don't teach this stuff in school. And how many times do we look at credit reports or things like that? And people say, well, it was trial and error until I figured it out. It's another brick in that foundation of establishing a strong financial literacy.
Hmm. Hey, you mentioned something a minute ago. I meant to ask you this. I've never heard the term "girl money." What is it? What is that referring to?
Well, so I will say that it can be pejorative, right? So it can kind of say, oh, girl money could be, it was something that was really flippant, right? It was saying, okay, if you spend money and let's say that you went and bought a piece of clothing and you returned it and then now you got a gift card, it's like it's free money, girl money, so it's just kind
Hmm.
of saying some of the things as far as like some of the psychological reactions that we have towards money, and it's like, oh well, if it's on sale then I'm saving money, and things like that. And so sometimes it was just it started out really kind of more lighthearted, just talking about like,
I get it.
oh, I'm like that too, or whatever. And then there were some people that were saying, well, that's really infantilizing, that's really diminishing women's intelligence and things like that. And certainly everything can take a dark turn because some of it was being used of like, oh, women are so silly with money and they have more credit card debt, and some of these just really unfortunate kind of uh myths and things like that. But also talking about girl math and girl money was that's how it was being framed.
I got it. So I'll tell you why I've never heard that term is because in my household, um, with me and the lovely Mrs. White, um, yeah, she does all the finances in the family, like literally. Like
Mhm.
some people, yeah. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
I together we own a very successful mortgage business, and I own a very successful
Mhm.
training business,
Mhm.
and we do very well,
Mhm.
like you do,
Mhm.
and yeah, I that term just seems so foreign to me,
Yeah.
because
I
if
think I
anything,
think a lot of it was really meant to be kind of flippant and
yeah,
funny.
I get it.
Because a lot of times, I mean, when you think about it, when we are working with clients, whether they work outside the home or not, a lot of times the women are the CFOs. Like, because
For
that's what I
sure.
tell my clients. I'm like, look, I'm the CFO for my family. I get
Yeah.
that. And it's just shining a light on that, making sure that there's due respect for
Yeah.
you know what women do handle, and in the professional and in the personal sense.
Yeah, because I've seen like it with my friends that are more affluent, I would say, and I'm just off the top of my head,
Mhm.
I would say more often than not, the lady of the household tends to be the CFO because I'll be talking to some of my friends when we have hobbies and they're saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm going to go get a new insert in hobby thing." He said, "But
Right.
I need to go clear it with my CFO, right?" So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's common.
And
Hey,
that's
so
the thing, is that there's been that shift, right, of some equality, I think, within individual households, but there's still sometimes the perception that that's not the case. Or on the provider side, I personally have been in situations where simply because of my gender, even though, yes, I'm the CFO for our family, that I was the one that was kind of being talked to as kind of the co-pilot, or just along for the ride. And it's like, where did this default come from, you know?
mm, Do you find that to be still the case? Like here, so let's talk about as mortgage professionals.
Mhm.
Do you think that's still a prevalent thing where, um, if you were to go into somebody's office as a borrower or as a
Mhm.
prospect,
Mhm.
where they'd go, "Hey, where's Mr. Richardson? He's the one I really need to be talking to." Do you think that's still something that we see today?
I should hope not. I mean, I don't think that
Well, I
it's
know we
that
hope
overt.
not, but do you think that is still an issue?
I don't know. I mean, I do have clients that sometimes will come to me that are women that will say, I feel a lot more comfortable working with you, or because one of the things that I specialize in is separation and divorce, and so I think particularly kind of during that transition, women will feel more comfortable working with another woman. And I think anecdotally, yes, I've gotten that feedback, but I really don't think that it's that prevalent. I hope that it's not, but
Right.
I don't think that it is, because part of why I wanted to elevate this to Scotsman Guide and talk about it is because it isn't as it isn't as overt, right? Like people aren't necessarily going to say like, oh, well, where's your husband? Because I'm not going to talk to you, but it's really kind of more those kind of microaggressions, or just the assumption that because of your gender, this is the role that you play in this transaction. And that was more the conversation of for each other, as colleagues, of just be like, hey, just be aware that we probably have had different experiences growing up, and make sure that somebody's really being treated truly, equitably.
Did I do I remember this right that in the article you mentioned that there's more single women are homeowners than single men?
Hmm. Hmm.
It,
Yeah.
it isn't that interesting?
That's been a growing trend, and even when NAR's most recent, report that comes out with all that great data that we kind of get to nerd out over, I believe that I think that women are in single digit, maybe around 12% is what's in my head, and I think single men are maybe around 7 or 8% or something like that, and that's even in spite of the pay gap, or the pay gap, gender pay gap.
Isn't that interesting? So with women, single women tend to own more homes than single men by pretty good margin. Sounds like actually,
Mhm.
and yet there may do you think there's still inequality on the on the pay scale of men versus women? Is that still an issue today?
I mean, statistically, yes, in a lot of fields. And there are all kinds of different reasons for that. I couldn't get into that because I'm not a labor expert. I'm a mortgage expert, but I just thought it was interesting, and that was really all that was meant to be, was just kind of an observation,
Mhm.
to be part of that conversation about women and money. And then it kind of
Yeah.
spiraled into something different.
Yeah. So how can the industry better support women thriving in what I guess traditionally this is finances was a male dominated field. Mortgage lending. How can the industry better support the women in this industry?
I always think that just coming with kind of a benign intent, or just being neutral, right? Just not assuming, because I think both men and women bring a great perspective to this industry, and we need that balance. So a lot of times I think it comes down to things that aren't just specific to our industry. It's making sure that, in a meeting, not deferring to a woman to necessarily take the notes, or if an idea is floated up, not to co-opt that idea and just kind of, take it over and take it from her. That's a lot of times what within, my peer group, some of what our experiences have been.
Hmm. And I'm not going to ask you this question of do you have a daughter, but let's just say if you had a daughter
Mhm.
and she was thinking about getting in the mortgage industry, what advice would you give her, or any young person that's a
Mhm.
female that's getting ready to get into this industry? What advice would you give them?
So I do have a daughter who has no interest in the mortgage industry, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
But my biggest advice would be to for anyone getting into the mortgage industry is to find a really good mentor. And it may not be your boss. It might be, it could be a competitor. Some of my best mentors have been so-called competitors. Find people like yourself, who put solid information and tangible action out there, because I think a lot of times it's easy for those of us who have maybe been in the business for 15, 20 years or whatever, and be like, oh, just go out there and talk to people. And they kind of get these general, ideas of what to do, but it's more from the standpoint of really find someone who says, yes, I see something special in you, and I'm willing to open up my playbook and share some of those lessons that I learned, that I skinned my knees on, and save you some of that effort, so you can climb higher than me, so you can bring, be another good person, be another good advocate in this industry for homeownership and for financial literacy.
Hmm. And let me ask you this: what do you wish? What do you wish? I was going to say guys like me. That doesn't come out right. What do you wish? What do you wish the average male in the mortgage industry? What would you like them to know?
That we're your peer. I mean, from the standpoint, if I can share kind of a little story from years ago. I had a very hard stop when on my day. Like, I had to leave my office by 5:15 because I knew what my commute time was, and I needed to go pick up my kids who were at two different locations. So that was my red line time.
Mm.
And I had a file that something was going wrong, right? So had to fix it. There was some kind of fire, whatever it was, and I was staying later. It was 5:20. It was 5:25. And I'm feeling that kind of temperature gauge just going higher and higher and higher, because I know that I'm late, but I can't drop this ball for my client. And in the middle of kind of that stage, one of my coworkers came by and he said, well, you're here late, like you're normally out of here by 5. And I said, yeah, I am out of here because I have to go get my kids. And I said, and then after I put them to bed, then I get back on my computer and I work another hour or 2 hours. And because it smarted, because it felt that it was like, oh, you're a slacker, because you're not staying around here till 6:30. It's like, no, I don't have that luxury, because I made the choice to be a mother and I have this obligation to my kids, but I also have these obligations to my clients, and I'm having to balance both and not drop the ball on either. And so I think the awareness that sometimes the way that we work, the how we express, a concept or how we connect with a client, that might look different, but it's not less. And he didn't say anything like that to me again.
I like that, Rebecca. Very good. This has been very interesting. So I'm going to be transparent to our listeners. As we were recording this, we had discussed before we hit the record button that if I would get one of my partners over here, that's two of them are ladies, to do this interview with you, so it'd be more of a ladies' topic, right? But this has been interesting for me. I'm glad. I'm glad you and I did this. This is.
I appreciate it.
It's eye opening for me. You don't know what you don't know, and I think this is one of those topics that sometimes we might be having these perceptions, and we don't even know that we have them or be meaning to do it.
Sure.
And I'll be, so I've never used this term "girl money," but but I hear what you're saying. It's interesting. It's an interesting topic, and just yeah, it's just it's just treating people like people. That's the bottom line to all this thing.
That's ultimately what it comes down to, because I mean, I don't know what it's like to be a man. I don't. I have amazing men in my life that I love very much, and I love to hear their perspective, and it's helpful for me. My business partner is a man, and he's talked about sometimes the pressure of being a man, or being all those kind of things. That's not what I've experienced, so I don't know it, but I can be empathetic to it. I can be curious, and I can hold that for somebody that I care about, and just say, yeah, I don't know what I don't know, but tell me, and I'm here to listen, versus making those assumptions.
Yeah, I like that. So, Rebecca, if somebody wants to learn more about what you do, or follow you on social media, I know you're very successful with your Kind Lending, which, by the way, what an awesome name, Kind Lending. Is that did that come from the word kind, or is somebody Mr. or Mrs. Kind?
Oh no, this is Glenn Stern's company. So it was his vision to basically have a platform where yes, we can do great things in mortgage and serve our clients, but maybe have it be a little less mercenary. And
Yes.
be somewhere, be somewhere where we can support each other, support our clients, and do good work. So that's part of what attracted me to it, was just from a standpoint of yes, it's just do good things for good people, like you said, and just treat people like people.
Yeah, I like that. So I know you're known as the mortgage mentor. So if somebody wants
Mhm.
to hang out with you or get to know a little bit more about you, what's the best way for them to do that, Rebecca?
Easiest way is contact me on any kind of social. Primarily, my favorite sandboxes to play in are Instagram and TikTok. So I'm there as the mortgage mentor, but I'm on, LinkedIn and Facebook or Carrier Pigeon. I don't care how you reach out to me, but I always like knowing other good people within the industry and being connected to them.
Very good. Well, it's certainly my pleasure, Rebecca, and I appreciate you coming on and enlightening us today. Is there anything I should have asked you today that I didn't? Did I miss something that needed to be said?
Well, you have roots in the Carolinas, so I need to know, who do you pull for basketball? We're going to be coming up on basketball season here soon, so I need to know if we're going to be friends or not.
Well, we'll see. See, I've learned long ago we don't talk politics or basketball. So,
Fair,
uh,
fair.
so
Okay.
for sure we can be friends, right? For sure we can be
Great.
friends.
Okay.
So, great, Rebecca. Thanks so much. This has been great, and I appreciate it. For our listeners, be sure to go check out the article. Again, it's in the December issue of the Scotsman's Guide on the residential side. It was called "Viewpoint: Path of Progress." And great read. I highly recommend it. Hey, do us all a favor on behalf of myself, Rebecca, and the team over at the Scotsman's Guide. The one thing that we do ask is share this episode with 3 of your favorite loan officer friends. They'd appreciate it, and I guarantee we appreciate it too. And we always appreciate those good reviews. So thank you very much. And by the way, if you want to write an article for the Scotsman's Guide, be sure to reach out to us and let us know the topic, just like Rebecca did. And boy, I'd love to interview on one of these episodes going forward. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks again, everybody. Bye bye.